Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show today. I'm glad that you're here. I love that bump intro every time that we play that. A celebritypreneur. That is an amazing word. I wish I would have created that, but I had a marketer come up with that name. But I am keeping that, and I'm going to keep that and label myself that for the rest of my life. This week, we have three phenomenal guests, and we're going to be talking about three ingredients that all entrepreneurs want. That's more exposure, more clients, and, of course, more profit, and we're going to go a little dig deep kind of method, and I'm going to go into the psyche of the minds of my guests today, and I'm really excited to have them. But before we go on with the format of this show, I just want to remind everyone that we have a very awesome magazine that just came out. It's called the iNetrepreneur magazine. And please go to iNetrepreneurmagazine.com. You can go there and you can subscribe to it. We have about 30,000 subscribers in our magazine. The footprint goes out digitally to right now 12 different countries and 27 different states. So I'm really excited about that. We have had different phenomenal guest contributors in there, such as Mark Victor Hansen, Sharon Lecter. We've even had Ira Rosen, Emmie Saavedra in that, and I believe Alex. So all three guests today. But it's a great magazine. People contribute both of their minds and their hearts in there. It's not an advertising type of magazine. It's one that is all about great content. I also want everyone to remind everyone to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. Again, youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. I get teased a lot about the name of the company, iNetrepreneur. They're like, you know what? I can't spell it, Robert. How do I do it? And I said, that's why we send you the link. All you have to do is click on the link. And I said, if anything, even if you are never able to spell it, one thing that we'll always do is help you learn how to say it. So again, it's iNetrepreneur Radio. We're on YouTube, and we hope that you guys would love to subscribe to us. But with that said, I'd like to bring on my phenomenal first guest, and welcome David for being here with us. Our phenomenal first guest, Emmie. Emmie, how are you doing today?
I'm super wonderful, Robert. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful, and I am excited that you're here today, because the opportunity of conversation is very powerful. And anytime that I can really get into a conversation with you, I always so much of the time I'm on the phone with you, and I say, Emmie, gosh, if everyone could just hear what we're saying now, we're just ready to take over the world, aren't we?
Absolutely, we're ready anytime.
And one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you have a business mind and a servant's heart, and that's hard to find, a business mind and a servant's heart. And one of the things I thought about that I didn't really bring up on the last show was, I wanted to really kind of, get people to kind of know, I mean, you're not from this country. And we talked a little bit about how you're Chinese that grew up in the Philippines, but then you came to the United States. But, one of the things I wanted to ask you on that show was, when you took your first step, in the United States of America, I'm sure that, you did have vision, you did have dreams, you did have thoughts of what life would be like when you first came here. But it was a question I really wanted to ask you, because, for myself and my family, we are a nation of many different peoples that create this phenomenal tapestry that's here. What was it like for you when you knew that first step that you came to this nation to establish your greatness? And being a Marine, I served 6 years in the Marine Corps. I appreciate the patriotic feeling in your background, by the way. But what was that first step like when you came here?
Gosh, the first step is that you always read about the United States of America, the English culture, the Western culture in books. So you lived out your dreams inside books when I was in the Philippines. And so I think that's applies to everybody, right, who's never been here. And so the moment you step into this country, what really is amazing that struck me was really I'm living my dream. I am in my dream. This is my dream. And then when you're first here, you cannot even tell that you were not in the best place in the country. I stepped into here in Newark, New Jersey in the late 80s, and it was then the capital of AIDS epidemic at that time. So I
Oh,
did not
wow.
even fear about that. All I cared about was that I realized my dream. I am living my dream right now, and everything else was, sometimes there's bliss in ignorance. As though that was just a simple mindset. And so it was so simple that nothing faced me except that, wow, I'm here.
Well, and you came here with purpose, and
Mhm,
in many ways, you knew that you wanted to establish greatness. You knew that you felt that this was a country that you wanted to come to develop that greatness. But you still had to take several steps after you came here. And some of those steps really led you to the medical career. I mean, I think
mhm,
early on, you were in the medical profession or the dental profession for many years,
mhm.
and then after that you went into nursing. Tell us a little bit about your background in dental and nursing, some of the things that you may have learned, from that you could share with entrepreneurs that you apply today.
Sure thing. And so the number one thing is that when we're fresh out of college, Robert, you're very idealistic. It's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be so a dentist. And this was in the Philippines. And then 4 years into the career, you realize this is not actually going to take me to the United States of America, the easier route. Right? So it's like, okay, so what's next? Then you start listening to people's advice, what they share with you, and you look for the nugget. And I was just so lucky that I actually was able to shift my mindset from being a doctor to being a nurse because I was really focused on living out my dream and having my dream come true, which is to come to this country. And at the time, it was very easy for a nurse to get here because the demand was great. You get the green, you get your visa really, really fast. And all you need to do is work as a nurse. And that was why I emphasized like, even if I were assigned to a hospital that was teeming with AIDS patients, you see them dying every day. It was nothing that faced me because all I was focused on was my dream. And then, Robert, the moment you lived out your dream, as you mature, you realize that actually you can have other dreams. And so that's when other dreams start coming along. And you know what? I always go with the flow with life given to me. And I always do my best inside that. And that's when I met my husband to be. And so we worked together to support him through school in dental and then his brothers as well. So the rest is history. The thing is that you talk about servant heart, right? And that was really the magic of it because the moment you step out of yourself and have it in your mind that you want to help people, the universe actually rewards you tenfold and more. And so
Yeah.
that was my dream, right? I worked hard, supported my husband through school, his whole family as well. They all were beneficiaries of that. And then lo and behold, I got my life, and then your dreams expanded, and then you start creating. And then that's when I stepped into entrepreneurship because I was going deep into personal growth and development. And it's like, it doesn't stop here. You don't have to be a nurse forever, but you can do something that serve and make a business of it.
And see, and that is something that it took me a while to understand. But once I understand the approach, my dad told me a lot when I was a child. He said, he told me, he says, the strange thing about greatness is it's similar to the strange thing about failure. You
Mm.
know, a, you know, if you have greatness, if you embrace greatness, you can take greatness into everything that you do, whether
Mhm.
you're a nurse or a doctor or a digital marketer, an author. And he says, but you can also concentrate on the other side, the lack of greatness. And so it's really interesting to me when I bring entrepreneurs on the show that, some people, they have an epiphany point and they said, who I was is not who I'm going to become.
Mhm.
And then I have others who, they've always strived to the greatness, but they may not have really embraced the fullness of what they truly wanted to do. If that makes sense. But my dad said, if you just work on yourself and you strive for your own personal greatness and your own care and your own development, he says, no matter what you do becomes so much more natural, and it becomes so much more easy. And I didn't really learn that, inside of me. I learned it because of relationships, and much of that was through, networking and other business people, because I can see in them what, even the questions I didn't have to ask. But some other things that you talk about in your world is, just being a person that's unstoppable. And I think that comes from your journey of desiring to be great. Tell us about, another nugget maybe of, why do you want to become so unstoppable?
That is so great, right? Because this is how it boils down to. Number one, Robert, is that you always need to really focus and do whatever it takes to take you to your destination, right? So I was very clear, like, thank you for this conversation, because inside conversations, you actually have inquiries that really, open up a lot more doors. So I was very focused that early on at that point, I wasn't not even conscious of it, but you actually do whatever it takes. So for me, it's to take me out of the country, come to the United States. I did whatever it takes is to be a nurse. Number two is like, it's easy because why? That is where you get fulfillment. The moment you follow the purpose that's in your heart and you take it out to the world and be who you are, because you say, this is my life purpose. This was who I was created to be. And it's nothing ever short of being great. And you will hear it in your heart and soul. Like, what is really your purpose? Because you know it will light you up. And then it becomes easy, Robert. It's easy to step in your greatness. And for me, I speak for me, my faith is very strong. And I found out that if someone's faith is very strong, they find their purpose easy, and then they're clearer with their direction and the things they need to do in life. And
Well, and again, we're going to probably bring this up through the show a little bit more, whatever it takes. I think when you have the feeling of whatever it takes, it makes, let's say, getting up on stage just a little bit easier, at least more desirable. It means, turning another page in the book because you just want to fill yourself with knowledge. And really, I call it CQ. We hear a lot about IQ. We hear a lot about EQ, which is both the intelligence and the emotional quotients. But I also think that someone who really wants to be unstoppable also has an obsession with their CQ, and that's their connection quotient. They have this insatiable desire, to meet other people and in a certain way save them. Save them from making bad decisions, save them from, having a lack of opportunity, save them from, maybe not having the choices necessary, to go on the journey. Because I a true believer that we all have our own journeys, but none of us can have to journey alone either. you know, and hence one of my sayings where it says, with winning there can only be one, but with succeeding you can take everyone. And which gets us to something about, where you have this drive and you have this desire, and you've been able to choose now the tools that you use and the company that you founded, and that's the Champions Institute. And what I'd really like to talk about now, with knowing a little bit about your background, is, let's talk a little bit deeper about your business, the Champions Institute, and some of the tools that you use to help others achieve their greatness.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for asking me that question because this company is very close to my heart. It's really the culmination of everything I learned and also the purpose of living out my purpose. And so the vision of us creating the company is actually to create leaders of the world that lead with love, courage, and excellence. And so what does that mean? We want everybody to be very successful, whether you are in your own personal life or in your businesses. And above all, we lead our courses and training, Robert, with converting sales in less time because that is actually in the world of being influential and being a top producer in whatever you're doing. So to me, it's key. It's like if we can help every human being experience success and live out the rest of their lives accomplishing successes and teaching others to be successful, to me, that is a life well lived. And so that is really the whole mission of our company. And it's very special to me in the sense that, Robert, there's a lot of human souls out there needing what we have, needing our expertise, our wisdom, needing about the people we're connected to that can give them the best wisdom and the best directions, right? And so I find the Champions Institute, as really the expression, the full expression of who I am and who we are. My business partner and I, Brandon Barnum, share the same heart. We share the same beating, the same cadence, right? And so feeling very blessed, really blessed, and having you in our corner or you seeing what we see it, how we see it, is actually a validation of the greatness that we are stepping into, Robert, and we want every human being to have that opportunity.
Well, and something that you do, and this is what entrepreneurs who are obsessed with what they do and who they are, they're willing to run into walls, and the walls can be as physical as bricks, but the walls can also be mental. And what I love about what you do is, there's a word that you have and you use, and it's just an awful, terrible word, Emmy. And I what are you thinking? Sales. I mean, sales. When people hear that word, they shudder like it's the rickets or something. And and quite frankly, it's a shame. And I say that with the truest of meanings. It's like networking. I say, the only networking that is bad networking. But when you do great networking, wonder can happen. But it's the same with sales. What happens in commissary, the commerce of business without sales? And I think that the reason why people have such maybe a disdain for the word is, I think I read in Forbes, I believe it was Forbes, it said only 3% of all people who are in the field of sales have ever picked up a book or have gone to a training course, for sales. And I think sometimes, the thing that matters most is, somewhere down the line, there's a passion, there's a problem to be solved. There is a desire that can be fulfilled, but it takes the communication sometimes of someone who's in sales to articulate it in such a way that speaker to audience understands. And I appreciate the Champions Institute, instead of running from that dreaded word, is actually running towards that word to kind of uncover some of the myths of what sales is. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And so, Robert, if I speak a little bit more about it, what we're doing is really expanding the paradigm, the people's perception of what sales really is. And so if this is a word that's a little bit negative, I invite everyone to really expand it, right? Because sales is simply the ability to influence. If you have a child, you're always in a sale because you're selling ideas, you're selling them to do tasks for you, or it's a trade. Every time there's a conversation, if you are a leader in a group and you're cohorting and creating things together, there's always a sales going on because you're selling either an idea, you're selling, a trade secret or anything. It doesn't have to be all money. And seriously, what is there to be wrong about? It's about being influential. If you want to be a great leader, you want to embrace that. And
Well,
sales is simply that, being influential.
Well, in the topic of the show, and this is where I want to weave this into everyone who's listening, is, three ingredients that all entrepreneurs, want to have is more exposure, more clients, and more profit. But, you know, once you get the exposure, Emmy, we do all this work for the exposure. I've seen far too many times a person blows it at the point of transaction. And I don't mean transaction like, you're in the cash register, but I'm talking the holistic approach of truly serving someone, and manifesting that sale to serve. And I think that that's what you're doing. You're bringing back this word into something that is meaningful again. And I truly believe anything becomes meaningful if you give it meaning. And we've had such a problem looking at sales, and I think the right lens. We have to look at it with the right lens. Well, I could go on and on about you, but we only have so much time. But I have your information going across the screen right here, Emmy. Are there any other places that we can find you? Any events that are coming up? Please let everyone know.
Yeah, so if you go to my website, right, it's a tcichampions.com, you will find all the events we posted there. So we have events to accelerate sales in general. We have events to really make one a real estate rock star. And we also have one, we're now going to build verticals into serving the dental and medical industry. To me, every time there's a transaction with a human being, there's a sales process going on. And, let's really embrace it, because then you will see miracles inside it. And lastly, Robert, to be really honest, to me, closing a sale is the ultimate self-expression of service. You have something great. And if you cannot take that person to the finish line and have them experience a whole different future, then what good it is? And that is sometimes what you can call close a sale. And it's simply about really helping others achieve a new future because you really got them there. So it's a thing to love.
And absolutely. And one last thing I'll just add on to that. Closing the sale isn't the ending. We need to understand that closing the sale is actually the beginning, and that's the beginning of a relationship that has meaning and matters. So, Emmy, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you each and every time, and I can't wait to the event. The Art of Connection Summit coming up September 21st and 22nd. You're going to be on our panel, and I know you'll blow everyone's minds away. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's an honor to be with you, Robert. Thank you, everyone.
The honor's mine. Thank you, Emmy.
You're welcome.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Wow, I always want to thank Emmy so much. If there has ever been a softer formula of intensity, Emmy has found it, because she is one of the most sweet but intense perfectionist professionals that I've pretty much ever met. And so, Emmy, thank you for being on the show today. My next guest is Mr. Ira Rosen with Mojo Global. Talk about another man, a rock star, a legend, if in our own minds, right, Ira?
Absolutely.
Is Ira Rosen. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, Robert. Good to see you as always, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm always excited to be with you, Ira. You're another person. You are definitely one of the members on my pick up the phone team. I mean, when I come to a hurdle and I just need to get over it, I mean, your number's right there in my phone, and I can pick it up and I say, hey, Ira, I have this. What can we do? Hey, Ira, I'm thinking of that. Would you want to be a part of? You're always there with me, and I am not ashamed to say that to anyone, Ira. So, so I'm just putting it out there for us.
Well, thank you. Someone called me the other day and they said, you know what? You're a business therapist. And so I got a kick out of that. But sometimes I see things from a different viewpoint or perspective that other people don't see. But Robert, what I've been really excited about is from the first time I met you to where you're at right now, and the growth of your company and what you guys have accomplished has been nothing short of spectacular. So if I played a tiny role in that, I feel very, very humbled and blessed.
Well, my dad once told me in something, he said it in his own words, but the words were always, success leaves clues. And he said, there's enough people out there who they've already solved the riddles and the problems for you. You just have to go find them and become your friend.
Yeah.
And and for the longest time, I was a part of the school of hard knocks. I felt like I had to burn my hand every time I saw that the burner on the stove was red. And the moment I actually started listening to someone who was far wiser than me was the moment I started to develop my own wisdom. And one of the things I like to say with you, Ira, is you do have a tremendous amount of wisdom, and you are like the pharmacist, for businesses. You know how to mix up the cocktails and serve them right, so we can find our best performance. Okay, so I'm going to give you another one there.
Thank you,
but
pharmacist. Okay.
Yeah, but I want to go back a little bit, because we go on the show and we get so excited about getting into the business of things, the business of business, and how you've really helped clients such as iNetrepreneur Network and others. But the story actually begins long before that, and a lot of people actually don't know that you at one time, I could start you with the perfectionism, the obsession of being a world-class athlete in your own right. I mean, an Olympic athlete, isn't that correct?
Yes, this is, and like I said earlier, not the last Olympics. So let's be clear on that. So, but yeah, it was. So I was an athlete in high school and college, and I was, I loved sports, and it was something that really gave me an opportunity to excel at, and I just wanted to be the best. I mean, wanted to be the very best, and so it made me dig down very, very deep and then go further. And I learned a lot about myself by pushing myself beyond what I thought I was capable of. And what I found over the years is people that were really good athletes, more often than not, they were very good in business because they transferred all those talents, teamwork, persistence, discipline, focus, clarity. And so those were things I was able to, develop at a very young age. And it really served me well moving forward, because one of the things that people really need to be aware of or afraid of is average is an epidemic. Average is, it's real easy to get caught in that space of average where you're sleepwalking and you're in your comfort zone, and good is just good enough. That's a horrible trap to be in. And so I learned early on that's not going to be the way I'm going to live my life.
Well, and you talk about like, my undergraduate degree was business with a minor in psychology. And then that was at the University of North Texas. Then I went to ASU for exercise physiology and sports psychology. And, I in my own right was a phenomenal athlete as well. I was in the track sphere, Ira, and I did track and long jump. I ran the 100, 200, and 400. And, my one claim to fame is I set the Marine Corps record for doing sit-ups. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so, and one of the things I always remember when I was working with professional athletes, or even in my own, mindset, I always said that the world's greatest athletes, and I think the world's greatest business owners, they start before the mindset. They really start with the heart set. And I think to really be the top of your game, you called it digging deep. You have to have a heart for it, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be, you got to be hungry for success. You've got to be starving for success, and you have to be obsessed. If you want to go to that upper echelon, really level up, not just really good, but, because good is not good enough in my view right now. It's got to be awesome and beyond. And so you've got to have that fire in the belly. And if you don't have it, there's a way to cultivate it. You just got to really figure out what you want and why you want it, and what is that going to mean to you, and how is that going to change your life? And and just find something that's that compelling that even in the mornings when you don't want to get out of bed, you bounce out of bed and you just make it happen. Because I think relentless is a key word. You just, in a very positive way, you have to be relentless towards your goal. And, we talked about this earlier. and I use this term every day, WITF, whatever it takes. And that's that's just how I've lived my life with everything I do. I just want to approach it so that I know in advance what the outcome is going to be, because no one's going to work harder than me or smarter.
Yeah, which really is is another level. And one of the things that I found is I've worked very hard in my life, and there's two areas. There is where you have a passion for it, but you still have to, but then there's also when you get to that level in life where you don't have to, but you still, I'm getting goosebumps saying this, you don't have to, but you still do it because you love to. And see, I've seen many people say that they love, but then once they get to that point of not having to anymore, they're done. But I think what really appeals to me, and when I talk to people about, why do you look at Ira as an impactor? And I said, because he doesn't have to do what he does anymore. He does what he does because he loves doing that. And I think that it's almost poetic when you have someone and you can work with someone who digs that deep. Because you can say you're passionate all day, and but is it because you're passionate about it, or it's because you're trying to put food on the table, or you're trying to get that next sports car? I mean, there's a big difference when you love it so much and you don't have to do it and you still do it. And I think that's where your impact comes in. In another question I had, Ira, is I know that you've had a lot of different mentors, leaders, teachers, coaches, people in your life. And, who was maybe one person that you can think of that just really impacted your life? And, you have always have a space reserved for them. Can you think of anyone?
Well, years ago, I was in the health club industry, my very first undertaking, and I loved it. And I loved that work so much. I would have worked for free. I mean, literally. And I met a man named John Elder. John Elder, interesting guy. He was the lead trainer for the whole country for Dale Carnegie. And we became friends, and he started mentoring me. And he taught 6 different courses at Dale Carnegie. And what happened was he invited me to go through all these courses, and he said, "You know what, Irie, just come in as my guest." And they're like 12 weeks. Well, over the next 7 years, I was rotating, and I was going through all these courses every week for 7 years. So that became my foundation. And just to this day, I can look back on my life, and all those things that I learned are like ingrained in my DNA. And that came from John Elder, and then who was so generous to mentor me and say, "Ira, here's all this information that is so valuable." And I was a young guy, and I think the key to success is you want to be always, no matter what level of success you get to, you always want to remain hungry and humble, no matter what. Hungry, because when you're full, that's not a good thing. I heard this the other day. You're going to love this, Bob. Robert, is the best. The best time to kill an alligator? Right after they had a full meal, because they're just kind of like out of it and almost like in a coma. So you never want to feel full. You always want to be hungry. And so that's how do you stay hungry? When you don't have to hunt, and it's just so it's a mindset thing where you have to work on it all the time, and you just have to remind yourself, okay, these are the things I need to do so I can function at my highest possible potential and be the best version of myself.
Well, and speaking of being the best version of ourselves, you took it from me, but we talk about whatever it takes, and that is where you excel, is whatever it takes to be the best version of yourself. But another place that you and I are very familiar with is we live in a very complicated world if we choose to see it as complicated. But here's the thing: when it comes to business, there's really only one goal. We talked about, clients in the sales process, but, part of that process before all the clients is exposure. And you and I have talked about this, I mean, probably 4 years running now. And, a a calendar that's empty is a person who's going to starve, isn't it?
Yes, it's. I created an acronym years ago. It's called empty calendar syndrome, and it's been an epidemic. It still is an epidemic, and it's the number one reason why businesses fail and go out early. They did a study at I think it was at Harvard, and that is the number one reason why businesses fail is they just simply don't have enough people to talk to. 98% of everyone's success right now in this new world that we're living in is not even how good you are at what you do. It's how good you are of telling your story, getting out there in front of enough people, and how many people can you get on a calendar that are, that have intention and that have the capacity to become a client. I'm not just talking about just having meetings to have meetings, but I mean real opportunities where you can help that person. So that's where the game is right now. It's who can market the best more now than ever, because things are completely different than say last year.
Well, and I say that a lot. We find ourselves impacting our own daily calendar with things that fill the calendar, but they're those busy things. They're not those profitable things. And I coined the term, and I think I told Emmie at the first time, for a business owner needs to be a prophet of their profit. And part of being a prophet of the profit is knowing the mission that you have, knowing the message that you create, and knowing the manner that you get it to people. And part of those methods are, if you're not filling your calendar with quality conversations that have a willingness and a desire and a passion and a need for what you do and how to fill it, you will end up, like you said, the no calendar syndrome, or you won't be, putting, the quality people that, you want to serve. And I think that that's what, you also help doing. You help mine out, the right key opportunities and words with your clients, because there is nothing. I have something too. I wish I created, Ira. It's called garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So, you and I can use all the technological methods in the world, but if you don't start with the right, mission and message, guess what? You're still going to end up empty-handed, aren't you?
Yeah. So I just want to back up for a second here that you hit on it for a moment. This is one of the books I read years ago that was very impactful, and intuitively I already knew it, was The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. And the message is, I'll save you all $12 if you haven't read it. The message very simply is 80% of our day is totally and completely non-revenue producing activities. And what you want to do is flip it around so 80% of your day becomes revenue producing. I'm the guy that wants to squeeze. My goal is, how do I squeeze one day out of an hour? That's how I think. So I want to work with urgency and purpose and be intentional. And so entrepreneurs this is their big Achilles right there, is look at your calendar. And if you really want to get ninja about this, when you go to sleep at night, write down your not to do list. Okay. And what you want to do then, what are those 2 or 3 things that are urgent you must do, and prioritize them. But when you do a not to do list, you'll be shocked of how much you'll get done. But that is really, you got to look every time you're doing something, ask yourself, is this gonna drive revenue? Is this worthwhile? Am I just going through the motions? Is this like a low value activity for me? And so when you start to train your brain on how to think like that, everything changes. Because when you do that, guess what? You have no competition, because no one's willing to do that, because for all kinds of other reasons. But that's a hack right there I'll share with everybody. And it's anybody can do it, but if you can double your lead flow, double the number of people that you talk to, you just doubled your income.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. It's amazing, and it works tremendously. And not every, and when we say revenue generating, not every relationship, not every meeting means I've sold to that person.
Right.
It could also mean that it unlocks a door to the entirety of a community that I have the ability to serve them. And I think that sometimes when we think of sales, we just think of that one-on-one person between the cash registers, but it's so much more than that. And and it's the same thing with tangible marketing. I know what with the magazine, when people ask me, they say, why do I want to be in a magazine? And I said, it's because, the magazine has a shelf life that lasts years. When, a social media post, I don't think any of us are searching, on social media posts that are a year and a half ago. People see it, they come back because, there's meaning in it. So it's like, there's the right now meaning, and that's filling your calendar. And then there's the exposure, kind of funnel, and that's creating those breadcrumbs, and they really do work hand in hand. And I'll tell you this, and you and I have talked about this as well. Um, you know, for lack of a better saying, money loves velocity. And when you and I met 3 years ago, I was, I was a programmer. I did coding. I worked for a lot of publicly traded companies in my life, and I had an agency that worked the technical side of marketing, which was great. But when we got up together and I saw what you did, it changed my life, because I knew that for the first time I could take the technology side and I compare it with the touchology side to find that cocktail, or that pharmacy
Right.
cocktail, right, Ira, of
Absolutely.
success. So tell us just a little bit about your business, now that we've prepped them up for that. And you have a couple of different ways of helping entrepreneurs fill their calendar, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have a LinkedIn platform. We've been doing this for 12 years, and LinkedIn is a digital gold mine. Absolutely. It's the most trusted platform there is. So what we do is we start with the profile. We make sure that they look awesome. We help them with their branding. We have them on a radio show. We also do a press release that goes out to 400 news wires. Then we coach them one-on-one for 4 weeks. And at the end of those 4 weeks, they're going to know more about LinkedIn than anybody they're going to run into regarding targeting, regarding messaging, follow-up. Follow-up is a big problem for entrepreneurs. 48% of entrepreneurs never make a second call. So you've got to have funnels and drip campaigns doing content marketing. So we help them with all those things. And the goal is to get in front of at least 1 to 2 people every single day, no matter what. And so if you're talking to, let's say if you're talking to 2 people a day, that's 40 people a month. And in 1 year, you've talked to 500 people. You're going to be making money if you're talking to that many people. Also, you're going to be able to add about, say, 400 people a month to your network that are targeted in LinkedIn. In 1 year, that's 5,000 people that become loyal followers. So that's what we do at Mojo. It's a lot of fun. We've worked with thousands of clients. We've done a lot of stuff with high profile people, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, in Ira, I mean, I really want to go back to the most personal part of what you do. The drip campaigns, the funnels, the retargeting, the keywords, the finding that audience. But what you said is, it's the coaching part. It's the ability to have the right product or service, and have the right conversation when you're able to get them on the calendar. And see, that's the difference. Lead generations, like taking a horse and putting them at the water trough. Lead generation doesn't take that next step. And that's something that I think Alex does. It's something that Emmie does, and it's certainly something that your organization helps as well. Because I know that the success of the organizations, it's not just the numbers, it's the actual relationships that are grown from those numbers.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, business today it's all relationship driven. LinkedIn is a relationship platform. And one way to look at sales, or another term I like to use these days, is influence and persuasion. Is they're buying you first, and they get your products and services for free. So you want to find you want to be able to connect with them, and if they believe that you believe that your solution is in their best interest, and you build the trust. And trust right now is the new currency. People really need to feel safe, and they can trust you. And then from there, they'll open up and reveal what is really going on with them. And a lot of people, they skip over all that and they go right into the sales process. And that's where they lose them. And it's unfortunate. But selling is it's a very delicate dance. And actually, in our program, I put together sales training for our clients because they all need it. I mean, that's the Achilles for most entrepreneurs. And also how to have a powerful mindset, whatever it takes. And so I've created programs internally. I didn't have to do it, but I thought, let's put that in there because people need that. So, I spent a lot of time and effort to, pull that together, but it's in there. That's like a bonus that everybody gets.
Well, it's the bonus that actually takes you across the finish line. And so, Ira, I have your information scrolling across here. Is there any other way that people can get a hold of you?
I actually you've got my email there, or that's probably the best. And also mojoglobal.com. You can go to our website, and then you can book a meeting with me that way. But I'd love to hear from your audience. We've done a lot of work with your members over the years, and I look forward to doing a lot more in the future. And I look forward to September.
Absolutely, I do too, Ira. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. If you have time to hang out in the after hours of the show, please do. But thank you so much. I appreciate our working relationship, and I do advocate for business owners who want to go from surviving to arriving to thriving. I say get this particular software. So thanks again, Ira.
All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
Well, I just want to thank Ira Rosen, owner and founder of the Mojo Global's tools, Social BFF and Social BFF Premium. Those are tools that I think that should be in every entrepreneur's toolkit. And next, I am so excited. I don't know what time it is there, but our next esteemed guest of the iNetrepreneur Network radio show is our very own Alex Vittillo. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hello. So excited to be with you, Robert. And I also have my copy of The Art of Connection.
Oh, I love that. That is wonderful. Well, I'm really happy that you have arrived and you're on our show today. And I think that you're probably in the wee hours in the morning out there in London. What time is it right there right now?
11:20 p.m.
11:20 p.m. And you look like you are just you have the beautiful backdrop, the color, the excitement, the smile. So I am really, really excited about having you on today. And Alex, I think that we probably met through the book itself. And you and I talked a little bit early on about the passion that I had. We had just come through COVID. And, the world had changed, and, we went from what was normal to a new normal. And now here we are again, a year later or so, and it feels like we're coming into this whole new world of the new normal.
Correct.
So, now all of a sudden we're trying to balance what was once virtual to something that really is this hybrid world of virtual and in person. And I'm going to meet them, but then, I'm going to telephone them, or I'm going to Zoom, or I'm going to Skype, and all these crazy things. I mean, the world has changed, so much. But one of the things that I love about you, and I will always love about you, is yes, the technology and some of the subtle customs of business will change, but for the most part, people themselves, right? People themselves remain. And I think that that's what you do. You help, mine like gold out of a person's soul and their mind to become great. And that's what I really, really appreciate about you. But a lot of people in our audience, both the guests who come on and to watch the show, and even the members of the iEntrepreneur Network, they don't know your story. They don't know about your early childhood, or any early interest or mentors that kind of started to create the tapestry of who you are. Tell us a little bit about some of your beginnings, your early childhood, etc., and what life was like for you back then.
Ooh, that's a question that not many people ask. Thank you. And I'm very excited about my childhood because I'm Italian. I'm living in London. I married an Englishman, but I grew up in Africa. And this is some of the gift you talked about your dad quite a lot. And it's some of the gift that my dad gave me he was a diplomat in Africa, and he took the decision to travel with me and my mom. And for me, it was one of the most beautiful way to grow up. It was a bit difficult because we were changing country every 3-4 years. And I lived in country like Somalia when the civil war started, and Rwanda where the civil war started. So I didn't have what you would call a normal childhood. I had times with curfews. I saw some not so good things, but at the same time, it really expands your heart. You meet cultures from all over the places. Africa is a truly fascinating continent, from a soul perspective. I think a lot of my gift as a psychic, as a shaman, really started there without me knowing. And I've got all of that spirit that supports me from that country. So it really was a blessing. And it gave me a way to look at people in a very, very different way that if I grew up in Italy, for instance, and then just moved to the UK and other. Yeah.
And I think we do breathe in existence. I do believe that we breathe in the environment around us, so much so, I for a long time I put on health and wellness events because I've always believed that if you don't have your health, you can't achieve your true wealth. And one of the things I said is, take me out of the home, I can survive for so long. Keep me from food, I can survive. Keep me from water, I can survive. But take away my air, take away my breath, and that's something entrepreneurs don't do. We don't breathe deeply and strongly and soulfully, and it really is the breath of life that actually creates another small part or even large part of our greatness, isn't it?
Correct. And my company is called Breathing Heart for exactly that reason. Because breath is what it's life. And the heart, unless you show up in life with your heart, it's very difficult to have a successful business. It's very difficult to be proud of who you are and to become the best version of who you're meant to be. So I really like to combine the two and to inspire others to really remember you want to breathe, and you want to breathe from your heart.
Well, and that is something that we don't hear too often. Being proud of who you are, and I think that is a special place, and I want to revisit that as we continue on our journey in our segment, But along in your youth and getting to travel to many wonderful different countries and probably seeing things that most of us have never seen, and getting to do things, quite frankly, that most people have never been able to do. Were there any maybe even mentors or just special people early on that really created a profound impact in your life as I see you now?
Well, many of my school teachers, were very open-hearted people, and again, they came from all sorts of walk of life, and some of them grew up in Africa themselves. So you got a very different perspective. But the person that I became now, for me, that there is a mentor that really initiated me into the spiritual path and into the meditation and the mindfulness. It was hard. I come from 15 years plus in finance. I was in investment banking. I studied economics. I studied finance. So for me to turn into spirituality was really a 360 degrees. And unfortunately, you asked about my personal life. It came because my husband passed away. So I was left really again with knowing a beautiful childhood, a beautiful, career, and the love of my life. And all of a sudden, you're alone. I had 2 young children. It was really, really hard. And when I started the path of the breath and the spirituality, this mentor was really pivotal in the way I show up now. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years later. And again, I felt it was one of those pillars in my life, even though, there was nothing ever. I mean, I knew it as a mentor, but I didn't know much of his private life. But when he passed away, I just felt again alone in the world somehow. And I had to pick myself up again. And you learn every time you pick yourself up, you learn something different.
I think that there is a portion of that loneliness that you use to your advantage, that you use as a part of your gift. Because, to me, if I don't tap into something, of who I am, I lack the ability, to understand people at a deeper level, and if it's loneliness that I have, and I can speak to that and have a conversation, it becomes deeper and greater, and it's in although I talk about sales and I talk about superpowers and exposures and clients and profit. I mean, I think, at the end of the day, am I proud of what I do? Am I proud of who I am? And when I work with people, do I also have the pride that I've helped touch them in some way that matters? And I think sometimes, we have such an obligation, a duty, and we should have an obsession not to just, work with people like, they're a stat on the sheet, but, work with people because, all of us have been given this universal gift to breathe in the universe and to be here, and to truly be, things that stars are made of. And, and sometimes we just, don't take those moments to meditate in the morning to go forward. So like for me, I mean, it is amazing when I learn about your life, Alex. You are in the mainstream marketing environment, of the financial industry, bringing awareness and bringing dollars and high profile clients, and I mean, driven. And then all of a sudden one day it's like you woke up, but in a way you didn't leave that behind. And I want everyone to know that you didn't leave that behind, but your spiritual awakening, helped you create an intuition-based awakening, where you help people really break through. I call it like the self doubt, the delimiting thoughts, etc. Take us through that point in time where you were like, what, I see it here, but I know I'm going to go there, because that must have been a really wonderful time in your life to make that change.
Well, even when I was on a trading floor for quite a lot of time. And if you've been on a trading floor, it's primarily men and very competitive, and they're shouting and they're angry, and, every basis points make a difference. And I was a bit like in this parallel reality where, yes, I was there, but at the same time, I had such I don't know if you can call it coolness, or maybe it was the colors I were wearing, but people really liked to have me by their side when all of this chaos was going on. And all I had to do was to be there, and you could feel the energy in the room would just diffuse, or in very tense meeting. And then people started to take me on business trip, and I would go to these amazing business trips, for 3 days all over Europe. And I was thinking, why am I here exactly? The senior partner was doing the talk, and I was very shy at the time. So the less talking I was doing, the better. But they just were, dragging me along. And now I'm thinking, that was that power of making people feel at home, making people feel, you know what, this stressful is really not necessary here. And somehow that brings home the cash. That brings home.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I find is, everyone suffers in their own way. Even people that have lots of cash, people that don't have cash. It's really not about the cash. It's about, it. There's more to it than that. Your goal, I believe, is helping people who are suffering in any area of their life and bringing harmony so they can go through from suffering to thriving. Because again, just having the money doesn't create that holistic wellness that I think that you help your clients strive to have. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's more, I say, once you have financial freedom and you claim that financial freedom, you can help the world. But really, is like you say, I come in a step earlier, which is really to help them claim their position of, okay, what am I here to do? How can I do it so that I can make a big impact for the world? And be proud of yourself, because we live in a world where we're conditioned not to be proud. We're conditioned that, oh, if you speak from your ego, it's bad, and we shouldn't have desires, and we should, don't speak about what we want. And oh my God, it's so hard, right? The world is fueled by passion. The world is fueled by desire. And for instance, I see it even in my children. My son is 12 years old, and he said, are you proud of my results? And I say, honey, you have to be proud of yourself. It's not for me, right? Of course I'll support, and of course I'm pleased, but you have to be proud of yourself. And if you get a 0, but you're happy because you think that's the best I could have done, amazing. If you get a 10, Ira is probably now saying, oh my God, she's encouraging her son. No, but it's, if they feel they've done their best and they're really happy with what they've done, then I'm happy. It's about them really being proud of themselves. And it's the same for the client. The moment you can claim, I'm happy, I'm proud, I know I can serve this client better, I know I can bring this to the world, the money comes. And it's just a way to describe things, maybe in a way that is a bit more immediate for people.
Well, and you bring something else out that I think it's very, very important that that I want to talk about, which will lead me to what you do for your clients in business. But it's like sales. I'm going to go back to that word, and then there's another word I'm going to put on the table as well, and that's ego. And I have never really been an advocate that to get your ego out of it. I mean, I've always found that funny. I'm like, well, what type of ego? I am ego. I mean, and it's like networking, or it's like sales. I mean, networking is bad because it's bad networking. Ego is bad because it's bad ego. But I also believe that ego can be a good ego. It can be beneficial, but you have to train it, and you have to know what it is, and you have to know how to apply it. And it's another word that I think that we just don't understand, and it's something that I want people to start feeling like they have to suffer because they have to ego. No, they just, like a child, they have to understand how to apply the ego in the proper way so it makes sense to others, because ego really is about clarity and authenticity, isn't it?
I'm so glad you bring that up. So glad, like you brought about sales. I say I've got a big ego and an even bigger aura, and hopefully you get the picture.
Right.
Because it's exactly that. There is all this idea of, I'm going to bring it back to sales. It's connected. Oh, don't talk about sales. I had some mentors that said, you should call your page, instead of shop, you should call it something else. And while you're on stage, instead of saying you're selling a product, you should say you're servicing a client. And I said, no. I'm going to call it sale. I'm selling you my expertise, because I'm claiming it. I'm shameless that way. And it's the same for the ego, right? It's like you said, there is many parts to the ego, but in this body, without the ego, we would be dead. So let's educate people that you cannot kill the ego, you shouldn't kill the ego. And just like you say, let's educate and start to understand which part of me could be more loving, which part of me is reacting to this maybe clients saying no, what could I do to bring a yes instead of a no? And do it with always curiosity. Curiosity is going to really open wonderful, wonderful doors. And I think when you are networking as well, it's all about curiosity. I want to learn about you. I want to know what, makes you tick. I want to know how you grew up, and not because I want to sell you something, like you said, right? But because I want to get to know you. And if we've got something in common, fantastic.
Yeah, and going back to the other part, actually, the starting of our segment, and it's being proud, and in the same thing that we are proud, we say we're proud of ourselves, but we can't have an ego. I from the standpoint of clarity, again, without ego, you don't have self. And, being proud of self is actually being proud of the manifestation of the ego and, of who you are. And that is something that I've really, had a hard time when people say that in business. And what happens is that I think it creates enough self-doubt because of that unreconciled area that causes people to truly self-doubt. And and I think that that's a great place that your business is in, is your business is about the well-being of the heart, the mind, the financial growth of your business, because in a way they're all extensions that overlap and cross each other. Isn't that true?
Totally. And especially I work a lot with people that are healers themselves, or they're in the well-being sector, that can be artists. And there is this idea, especially in the spiritual world, that your gift should be free and you should be for everybody. So what do? You start to doubt yourself, because part of the way the world operates at this point in time is through an exchange of money, right? So you want to get people to, again, claim and say, this is my offer. I'm proud of what I'm offering you. I know it can benefit you and it can benefit the world for the better, so that I can charge money for it. And unless you can claim it, you're going to be always in that self-doubt, and you're going to say, is it useful what I'm offering? Is it not? You're going to, let's talk in energetic terms, you're going to leak energy right, left, and center. You're not going to sleep. Your body's going to start to go down. And like you said, without the body supporting you, nothing can be done. So it's all interconnected, but you want to be clear with yourself. You want to be, again, expression shameless of, when you think you offer something of value and it comes from the heart. This is why it needs to come from the heart. Because if it's come from the mind, then you're only manipulating and you're thinking short term and what can I gain? I'm not going to support your business growth. But if it comes from the heart and you're not too sure, then I totally can help you out.
Well, I definitely think that you have so many passionate secrets that you can help unlock in the person's self, because many times we have so many of the answers, and then and in some places we're finding the answers, and you can help expedite those clients with that. Alex, I have your information scrolling across the screen. Are there other places or anything that's going on here in the next weeks that you would like to share with anyone, with us?
For sure. I want to invite them to the summit. I'm so excited. I'll be running a workshop. We're going to talk about sacred money archetypes. What are the stories? What are the archetypes? Really manifesting your money story. And we all have a money story. So even those very wealthy people, I work with some very wealthy people, we still go through hidden trauma, hidden experiences, and just to liberate the air so that more joy can come through their business. So definitely come to the summit on the 20th and the 21st.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for it myself. Alex, you're a treat. Thank you so much for being on the show with Emmie and with Ira today. I mean, I feel like I'm with three dear friends that, and we're here to sail and we're here to serve. You can have it both. Take your cake and eat it too, right? So again, Alex, thank you so much for being on the show. If you have time to stay after for a few minutes, please do.
Sure.
And
thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to thank all of my guests on the show. We touched upon, exposure, more clients, and even more profit. A part of who we are is just an extension of, our desire to serve others, but it's really our desire to understand the terminology of the words of sales or ego or having pride. And I think our guests did a great job of that. Remember, we're here on this network each week from 2:30 to 3:30. I know you have places to go and things to do, but you chose this time to be with us. And I want to thank each and every one of you that spend it with us here today.
You've been watching the iNetrepreneur Show, a production of the iNetrepreneur Radio Network with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.